All right. So hi everyone. We are very pleased to welcome you to this webinar about CAPI success stories and results. As a lot of you know, CAPI has been on the market for some time now already, for about 2 years. And probably all of you understood back then and today understand the value of Conversions API in the post-cookie context. But after 2 years, the question that all the market is asking probably is, what does CAPI precisely bring, which percentages, and how to best implement it? And that's precisely what we propose to discuss today. And I'm here with Mike and Greg. So maybe Greg, you want to introduce yourself? You're on mute, Greg.
I'm sorry. Hi everyone, I'm Greg. My name is Greg, and I've been head of analytics at Showroomprive.com for 5 years now, and in the world of digital analytics since 12 years now.
Thank you, Greg. And I'm also here with Mike.
Hi team. Hi everyone. So my name is Mike. I'm a marketing science partner since 3 years at Meta. I'm supporting an agency across EMEA on measurement solution and data collection product.
You're muted, Charles.
So it's my turn. So I'm responsible for expertise and innovation at the French office of 55. And basically, the expertise and innovation team bring new relevant solutions and technos for our clients. And we also support knowledge more broadly at 55. All right. So just a quick word about 55 first. So we are a data company. So basically, we help our clients leverage data in order to improve marketing, their brand, and their business overall. And we are present over all the data value chain. So from data strategy to customer experience and passing through media consulting and data architecture. We are present in 9 offices around the world. So in Americas, Europe, and APAC. And we are around 350 55ers and data experts. So that was a quick presentation. And now, just before going into the details of the results of Conversions API, we wanted to take a quick step back in order to understand why Conversions API has emerged and in which context. So most of you probably know very precisely the data scarcity context. But we think that it is key to understand where all this data scarcity comes from. And in our view, it comes from the fact that there has been for a long time now an unequal exchange between data and value for users, between precisely data that is given to brands and technologies on the one hand, and value that is provided to the users on the other hand. If we say it otherwise, we think that users are not against providing data, but they want in exchange that brands provide them with rich experiences and other benefits. And we think that this exchange is really key to remind in all data projects. So this is a starting point, but there are 2 trends that we see impacting data and marketing overall. The first thing you probably know it's regulation. So it's regulations asking for a cleaner and a stricter consent. And in our view, you really should not try to work on, be really clear about what data you collect and for which purposes. And you should focus on those audiences that consent, because they are not totally extinct. There is a share of audiences that will keep consenting. The other trend is rather a technical trend. Said otherwise, you probably know that the universal tracking that was fostered by third-party cookies and device identifiers is going away very quickly. So we have to find new ways to maintain resilient marketing and promote rather one-to-one relations between brands and tech players. So in that context, we initiated last year with Meta an acceleration program in order to make sure that our clients started the transition to the post-cookie world. And this program, very simply, consisted in focusing on Conversions API. And we'll see just afterwards why we think CAPI is really a key techno to go for with Meta. So basically in this program, what we did for our clients was to review their measurement strategy, because it's a good thing to try to make it resilient, but you have to make sure that you focus on the right measurement and on the right KPIs and the right data. So We start by reviewing the measurement strategy of our clients, and then by implementing Convergence API on their websites. We supported more than 10 advertisers in this program. Then, once everything was done, what we did each time was to measure the value of Convergence API for the organization and for the measurement, because there is some investment in implementing CAPI, so it's key to measure the return and the benefits for the company. So that's for the program. And I just wanted to say a quick word about CAPI itself. You probably, all of you know it, but just to remind, Convergence API is a new way of collecting data for Meta, so for Facebook and Instagram in particular. And the issues that it tackles precisely are the issues around cookie limitations, whether it's first-party cookie limitations or, for instance, third-party cookie limitations. Another thing that CAPI can do, and we'll just see it in a few minutes, is that it can help you bring data that you were not able to collect before. If we just have a quick look at the workflow on the right, Convergence API is basically an API, so you can connect it to any system. But what we did most commonly for our clients was to connect it to their websites and passing through a cloud, a server that was owned by the clients. And this helped us double track the websites of our clients with the pixel, the historical pixel on the one hand, and Convergence API on the other hand. And so in terms of benefits, what really CAPI brings is more reliable data. And this more reliable data is useful for reporting, for automated bidding, and for targeting. But also another interesting benefit that we have with Convergence API is to be able to control better what we want to send and what we don't want to send. Because since it's an API, it's installed on a server, you can really, with a high granularity, define which data you want or not to send. And lastly, as I was saying just before, what Convergence API enables to do is to collect data from virtually any source. And in particular, we think that CAPI is interesting to collect, for instance, offline status of a purchase, for instance, whether a purchase was cancelled or confirmed. You can also collect, for instance, user scores that you would not have available on your website. Or you can also collect offline conversions, whether it be sales that happen through phone, sales that happen in a store, in a physical store. So really securing the online part and going to fetch offline data and other CRM data, for instance. So that's for the context, and that's for what CAPI does. So now, as I was saying, we really wanted in this webinar to provide you with interesting figures about what CAPI brings. And to do so, we built a methodology to make sure that we really measure precisely the benefits of CAPI. Into details, and just before going for the quantitative part on the right of the slide, I just wanted once again to remind the qualitative benefits for businesses. In our view, the first benefit is really in terms of trust. In a lot of companies, we see marketing teams that say, we cannot trust the data because it has gone really crazy over the past years because of all the constraints. Having CAPI enables to really stabilize the data and make sure that everyone in the company trusts the data. And that's really qualitative, but a very strong benefit. Another benefit that I was mentioning just before is that CAPI also helps you have a more relevant reporting. And this is really key if you want to make sure that you take correct and relevant arbitrations between budgets, between campaigns, for instance. Another benefit that is harder to understand, but that is really important, is that with Convergence API, you will be able to collect more data and to feed Facebook Meta algorithms with more signals. So those algorithms will optimize better the campaigns. And finally, with Convergence API, you will be able to maintain relevant sizes of audiences for lookalike, exclusion, and retargeting. So that's for the qualitative part of CAPI benefits. Now let's deep dive in the parts that everyone is waiting for probably, which is the quantitative benefits and results of Convergence API. So in this part, we distinguished between two things. If you just take the normal tracking process, data is sent from the website to a cloud and to Facebook with CAPI. So data is first collected, And then it's not the end, because you have to make sure that data is understood by Facebook. And so you have to make sure that the conversions and the events that are sent to Facebook are properly matched with actual users and with actual campaigns. So there is really two parts in what CAPI does. It helps you collect more conversions, and it helps you match better those conversions. As for the matching part, it works by relying on hashed people data, whether it's hashed email, hashed phone numbers. And this is really key to make sure that you really attribute more results to your campaigns. For the first part, how does it work? A bit more into details. As I said a few slides ago, what we did most of the time for Conversions API implementations was to have a double tracking on the website. So tracking with the historical pixel, fully installed on the browser, fully client-side, and still subject to some cookie limitations, and the Conversions API tracking. So this dual tracking was deduplicated thanks to the deduplication key. But what is interesting is that even though there is a strong overlap between the two, there are also some parts that are only tracked by the pixels and some parts that are only tracked by CAPI. And so what we did was to look at the parts that was tracked only by CAPI and try to estimate how much it accounted over all the deduplicated conversions collected and sent to Meta. And so we get a first KPI, which was the percentages of conversions that would not have been tracked if Conversions API would not have been installed on the website. So this is this part. So how many more conversions do I track with CAPI? Then, assuming a stable budget, we estimated how much these additional conversions translated in an improvement, so a reduction of the cost per action. So this is quite simple. More conversions, better CPM. And again, this is because CAPI helps you collect things that would not have been collected otherwise. And you tell me, how do we do this in practice? It's not that complicated. What we recommend to do is basically to have a look at a business manager interface. And in this interface, you will be able on the left side to understand which percentages of Conversions API conversions were deduplicated and which percentages of CAPI conversions were not deduplicated and were unique to CAPI. And then you can derive the rest of the calculus. And on the right side of the slide, you can also understand what is your score of matching. So business manager and event manager list all the people data, the hashed people data that is collected. And it provides you a score that, let's say, tells you the health of matching of those conversions that you collect. And those two sources of data are really key then to understand how CAPI improves measurement for your campaigns. Okay, if you have questions, don't hesitate to post them in the chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So now, if you just have a look at the results that we had for our clients, and then we'll focus on Showroomprive. So on average, and just selecting 6 clients of this whole program, what we saw that with Conversions API, we were able to collect 11% more conversions that would not have been tracked otherwise with the historical tracking. And this is quite a lot if we consider. And this figure should also increase in the future when cookie constraints will increase. These 11% more conversions translated in 10% improvements, or 10% reductions in the reported cost per action. So 11% more conversions measured, and 10% improvement in the reported, in the measured cost per action. So really an improvement in terms of measurement. And also what we saw in terms of matching of those conversions to actual profiles and actual campaigns was an average score, an average event matching quality score, which is something specific to Facebook methodology, around 6, which is a Facebook recommendation of a good EMQ. And what's interesting for this score is that this 5.9 is an average of all the events that we had. But if we distinguish between upper funnel events and lower funnel events, obviously on upper and mid funnel events, users are less logged in general. So we had less people data, less hashed people data to collect. And on lower funnel events, such as purchases or leads, we had a stronger scores because users there tend to leave more hashed personal data. So really strong results. And again, this is just a picture of today, but it would be interesting in 1 year when third-party cookies are out to check then again what Conversions API provide to businesses. Okay, so this is for the big pictures in terms of results, but just to provide you with more concrete things, I wanted to deep dive on 4 of those 6 cases that we had in the program. And first, what was interesting that was these players on the left hand corner, which was a hyper and supermarket website. The additional amount of reported conversions to this CAPI was pretty in line the average. But what was interesting for this client, it was that this client made the choice not to collect hashed people data. And instead, the benefit provided by CAPI was rather around, let's say, the technical architecture, which was healthier and collecting more data, and what helped also maintaining and achieving a resilient measurement for this client was not working with hash people data, but instead extending the lifetime of the first-party cookie. As you probably know, first-party cookie are not going to go away completely. And they are today impacted on Safari in their lifetime, and with server-side tracking, with which we implemented CAPI for this client, we were able to extend the lifetime, still being compliant with the local regulation, make sure that it was not only 1 day on Safari. So really interesting player here, not playing with people data. Another interesting player on the right side was the cosmetic groups, a global cosmetic groups. And it started with a first market, so deploying Conversions API with Google Tag Manager server-side, hosted on Google Cloud Platform. And first, we did a very quick win deployment. And what's interesting is that the client was so convinced with the server side and with the user of GCP for this architecture that is now refining all his setup to make sure that Conversions API is deployed globally, and also that this cloud architecture for data collection can be used for other technos. So really interesting to see how CAPI can initiate a wider range of projects. The third player on the left side was a luxury luggage brand. And here, what was interesting that this client had a very good EMQ for lower funnel events, so really in line of meta recommendations of 6. And they did it despite having added an additional consent to collect hashed people data. So they had a consent on their cookie banner, and they put an additional consent where on the purchase form where they were collecting data, because it was their interpretation, and it is always your legal team interpretation. Of course, if you put 2 consent, collect less data than 1 consent, but still you can have some interesting data collection and some interesting matching to Facebook campaigns, even with this stricter consent. So really interesting cases. And last one, so again, rather on the cloud and technical part, is interesting because it's a global luxury e-retailer with, let's say, strong promotions and viral campaigns. And the challenge here was to make sure that this architecture that we're building with Conversions API was solid enough to resist to those traffic peaks. And that's what we did with them. It demanded quite some work. And the takeaway for you, I think, is that to understand that if you leave the classic client-side tracking that was just JavaScript and quite easy, and if you go for approaches that are more server-to-server, relying on cloud, make sure that you have a cloud that is robust enough. Okay, so that's all for the results. So again, very strong results and it's interesting feedbacks from several clients. And now I'll let the hand to Mike.
Thanks a lot, Charles, for sharing those great insights, your methodologies. So I think and hope it's really useful for the audience today. Now let's move to a showroom case with Greg.
Yes.
Greg, can you give us more detail about Showroomprive business model? What are your current architecture in terms of technology in place, and which performance you managed to achieve with CAPI?
Okay, so for those who don't know us, Showroomprive.com is a private sales company and the leader in French e-commerce, which wants to be the privileged partner of the brands which want to make benefits from our strong audience. We have existed for 16 years now, and we are present in 7 countries, mainly European. Last year, we achieved approximately 1 billion euros in turnover, and we have approximately 1,000 employees worldwide. Besides that, we also offer a marketplace for brands as well as other services such as logistics or photo shoots. So, as a private sale company, our acquisition campaigns have a key role because in addition to highlighting our running sales and products, we especially want to recruit new members. So social networks offer us a channel that allows us to reach new audience that is not necessarily our basic target, which is the digital one. And it's also a privileged channel to communicate our new strategy focused on responsible brands and products. So we managed to achieve a strong improvement in the reported data and volume of signals. CAPI helped us to collect 10% more conversions, which translates in an improvement, so reduction of the reported CPA of 9%. And it also means 10% more signals for activation. We also managed to link these signals to actual Facebook and Instagram profiles, thanks to different matching keys and scoring high on meta events matching quality score. For the architecture, so to choose the best architecture, we reviewed with 55 the various connector options offered by CAPI. We also took into consideration the fact we already used Google Tag Manager on the client side for our data collection. So to be quick on deployment and avoid integrating another new tool, we choose to rely on GTM server side. It also helps us achieve a strong flexibility as we can manage the connector directly from an interface without coding. Actually, starting to work on GTM server side was a really good opportunity as we are now migrating all the rest of our media and analytics partners on this architecture. We notably rely on the tags created by the GTM community, which is very large. Your microphone, Mike.
Sorry, it's my turn now. Thanks for this explanation and giving us more context. Now let's move on a few questions on the project of CAPI deployment. First, what were the stakes during which this CAPI project intervened? What was Showroomprive expected from it?
We wanted to keep a thorough measurement of media performance in a post-cookie and post-iOS 14 world. Not collecting data, precise data on users opting out, but maximizing data on consenting users. Also, as part of Showroomprive strategy, we want to achieve a better positioning on social media. This is linked to the new audience we want to reach and our strategy move forward previously mentioned. And so expecting lift on conversion and project return on investment, giving its relative complexity.
Thanks a lot. How did you sell the CAPI implementation project internally? What were the process and teams onboarded?
At the beginning, it was looking to be complicated. In fact, the project was not at all planned on our roadmap. So after CAPI was presented to us by Facebook, and because of the cookie crumble context, we quickly understood that this problem would quickly become even more impactful, and that CAPI will become the norm among other ad market actors. So we have to move forward quickly. we had to change our priorities in order to deal with this one. And after choosing 55, we put all the necessary people around the table, you know, like traffic managers, analysts, data architect, and data engineer. Then everything happened very fast, like in less than 3 months, everything was done. And for the legal part, we already dealt with this the framing before the project. As for the technical part, our IT team was really motivated as they understood they would have a direct impact on performance in marketing. And we were not used to work with them, so we scheduled regular touch base, and we had them work hand in hand with 55 and in order to master GTM server side. Working with the media team was also quite easy, as CAPI data is in the end seamlessly integrated in Facebook Business Manager.
Thanks. Thanks for this detail. Could you give us more information about the type of data that you are sharing with CAPI for the management of your campaigns?
Yes. So we're tracking quite classical events for an e-commerce website, you know, like page views, basket additions, purchases, as well as 2 major events for our campaigns, which main purpose is to recruit new members. So it's the registrations on our website and applications and the first purchases. We mainly send standard things such as product data and non-reconcilable data identifiers in order to deduplicate the CAPI and pixel tracking. Thanks to our business model around memberships, we also have a lot of consented hashed personal data. It is what helped us to get a strong event matching quality score, and it's a strong opportunity for audience reactivation. And finally, we may add some additional data, such as the RFM, RFM segmentation, in order to go further in our targeting, for example.
Thanks. Last question for you. Why did you decide to work and collaborate with 55 to deploy CAPI? What is the value of working with a partner for this kind of project?
Okay. Unfortunately, we had a very limited knowledge on CAPI and GTM server side. That's why we needed the expertise from data partner. We've been working with 55 for 5 years already regarding Google Analytics, and they support us in addition to that on several projects or technical issues on an ad hoc basis, and we have already been satisfied. So it was very natural for us to keep working with 55 on this project.
Thanks. I hope these few questions help our audience to understand how we can deploy a CAPI project. Now let's move to 55 question with Charles. So Charles, could you give us maybe visibility on what is the most complex task to complete when you are running and deploying a CAPI project?
Sure. I'd say that it varies a lot depending on the client. Sometimes it's really the team's onboarding that is the more complex. Often the media and data team, they will understand, but sometimes the wider team or the management will have difficulties understanding the post-cookie context, CAPI functioning, the value proposition, and so it can take a few months to get an actual sign-off from all the teams necessary in the project, and it can take even more if we want to onboard more countries, or for groups which have a lot of countries or a lot of brands. So really, teams onboarding should not be underestimated, because the topic is quite new and sometimes quite hard to understand. So I think for other clients, a challenge is to make sure that we really integrate fully the IT process and the possible IT architecture constraints. Because as you start to understand, I think CAPI is starting to bridge the gap between IT and marketing teams. And so as a marketer, you don't have to hide things on your hand. You should really disclose to your IT and security teams what you want to do in terms of server-to-server data collection. And you have to really understand what is your company policies I can use this type of network or not. This is how user management works. I have to use this type of proxy or not. So really try to work with your IT team to understand all the possible constraints. For instance, another constraints can be I don't want to work with an external partner that would use CAPI. I want to do everything in my cloud. That can also be a constraint. So really understand all the constraints. And then, depending on that, you will be able to choose the right architecture with which you integrate CAPI, whether it's a server-side TMS, whether it's an ETL, whether it's a custom deployment on the cloud using the API. There are a lot of ways to implement CAPI. Really find the way that is okay for your IT and okay for you as a marketing team. So really also working with IT is quite new and can take some time. And of course, I think you guessed it, the last complex things in this type of project can be to make sure to frame everything from a legal point of view. And sometimes it can be quite easy. Sometimes it can take a lot of time. And here the recommendation, the best practice would be, again, to explain everything about CAPI value proposition, how crucial it is for the business, how it works precisely, which type of data. Also, I think try to be flexible on the types of data that you want to collect. You of course, the more data, the better, but try to work hand in hand with your legal teams to select the data that is most crucial to your business and that is okay for your legal team to collect. And also on this legal part, really understanding which type of consent is necessary on the website or elsewhere. This is really key. So really try to ace this legal part.
Thanks, Charles, for giving us all those details. So do you see any change on the way that you are working with the client based on the CAPI project that you deploy, how it's changing your current way of operation with brand?
Yeah, so I think what I can say that CAPI really helped us initiate the roadmap to a post-cookie world for our clients. Because all of our clients, they know there is this 2023 end deadline. They know there are still already impacts today, but it helped to start at some point. And CAPI, since it's a quite quick win, helps our clients put a first rock on the building to say. I think another thing that CAPI helped us do with our clients was to go for, let's say, more secure and healthier data collection architecture. So CAPI was very often the first server-to-server or server-side data collection we put for our clients. They really had not done that before. It was quite new. And this is about to become the norm for all type of media platforms. And so now, every time we go talk to a new client, we really have this reflex of putting first this server-side tracking or server-to-server approach, and this is really better from a security point of view in particular. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean. So we received some question before the event, so maybe we can start to tackle it. So the first question is how to help client without a developer to integrate CAPI. So Meta has built an ecosystem of partners that can create connection between client data and conversion and our API, conversion API. So you have more than 50 partners today available. So there is different type of partner depending on the way that you want to integrate and connect your data. You have some tag manager systems, CDP, CRM solution, or data integrator technology. So all those partners can share data between your website and our API. So you can also connect data from offline or in-app activity with this partner. Another way to connect the client data with conversion API is to use the solution built by Meta named Conversion API Gateway. So it's not a solution that require any coding on your website or any new deployment. It's just connecting cloud infrastructure with our API in order to replicate and mirror the tracking pixel activity directly from server to server integration. The second question that we receive is specifically on banking regulation and data privacy law. The people who submit the question say that they are not using Facebook Pixel because of this privacy concern. CAPI will pose the same problem. Can we avoid any data transfer issue with CAPI? So the answer is really complex. Each company has different way to interpret the law, and this is something that we would like to let on client side to decide the type of data that they want to share and how to share it. What I can say is that today with CAPI, it's more flexible to manage the type of data that you can share with Meta. So with the Pixel, you are not monitoring every data that you are collecting, versus using CAPI, you are totally free on the type of data that you want to share with us, how often you share this data, and the variable or the event that you want to track. So what I can say is that today, if you want to take control on your data and how you want to pass it to Meta, CAPI is the right solution to use.
I think we have another question that Greg can answer. If you want, I can read it. So Greg, question is, how do you maintain the Conversions API? Do you have a bug alert system?
Yes. So you have two types of alerts. So you can have at least one type of alert. One side, you have the Facebook ones in the business manager, which will alert you on the collections and volume issues with the CAPI events. And if you use Google Tag Manager, the server side, you can have alerts in Google Cloud. For example, if your server is not available or whatever. And to answer another question that was that I read in the chat, which was, can the GTM method for CAPI be used with servers other than GCP, such as AWS or Azure? Yes, you can, but you will not have on every tool the alerting system. But you can integrate CAPI with a lot of other tools.
Definitely, and of course it's simpler when it's Google technology with Google technology, but it's open to a lot of cloud providers.
Yes.
I think we have a few left questions that we received before the presentation, but we have very interesting ones also in the Q&A section, so I think we can take some of them. The first one is, does CAPI involve PII data? Does CAPI include offline as well? So answer is yeah. You want to take it?
Yeah, I can answer to that. So our recommendation is to use the more PII data that you can, because it will increase the match rate and the EMQ score. We have seen in the example that Charles present that some advertisers prefer to not sharing any PII data. So both options are possible. Our best practice is to share PII with us in order to have more matching rate. So being able to reconcile more conversion and user. So this is our best practice. In terms of scope of work, yes, you can send offline conversion with CAPI. So you can send, for example, call center information or store purchase. So there is no limitation in terms of event to track. It's just the way and the methodology that you use to pass the information in our API that is really important. We have strong documentation on our help center that you can consult in order to see all the fields that are required to do the integration, all the fields that are optional but considered as best practice. So everything is detailed on our external resources.
So thanks, Mike. There's another question that actually I already had from many clients. So the question is, is there a date at which brands should implement CAPI by? So, and then the person here said that it will be complex for them to implement it before 2023. So what I would say that there are already strong constraints on the data today. So really CAPI brings strong value today, and our recommendation would be to implement it as soon as possible, also considering that it is not so complicated. And of course, next year when third-party cookies will phase out, CAPI will be all the more relevant. But if we just think of today's impact and benefits, so as you saw, we can already improve the measurement by around 10% in terms of volume of conversions. But let's say you are a brand with a high share of Safari users and iOS users, and for those users you don't have any third-party cookies, so you are strongly impacted. And thanks to CAPI in particular, if you had hashed people data, you can really improve the measurement. So again, for only users that consent precisely to this type of measurement. So recommendation is rather as soon as possible.
Yes, and just to complete the answer of Charles, our gold standard to measure efficiency is to use conversion lift study on our platform, and without CAPI you can't run conversion study anymore. So using Pixel it's not possible. So we recommend, if you want to have the incremental value and impact of your campaign, to have CAPI in place and able to run conversion lift study.
So then a very quick question. So do you have a benchmark to share about the percentage of additional conversion? So we'll share the slides after the webinar, and we'll also publish in a few weeks a public playbook in which there will be a lot of case studies with the percentages of conversions improvements, cost per action improvements, and all the interesting feedbacks. So stay tuned. I don't know, Mike or Greg, if you see questions.
Yes, so there is a question. So long term, would you advise to turn off the Pixel and have only CAPI live? So the best practice today is to combine both data source, so having Pixel in place on your website, but also CAPI, in order to maximize the volume of event that we are tracking. As we describe in the slide, we have exclusive event collected by the Pixel, exclusive event collected by CAPI. So having best of both worlds is the best practice. And if we have some duplicated event, there is a process on our side that is deleting the double counting. So no issue with that, but having in place Pixel and CAPI is the right way to proceed for now, before that cookie will be deprecated and that Pixel will be not anymore relevant.
So then we had so a slightly more technical questions, but for instance, the question was quite technical. So it's do you recommend to use an external ID? So it's variable, and indeed we recommend to use it in your tracking, because it enables to provide to Facebook your own ID, for instance, a CRM ID or yeah, subscription ID. And it's really interesting to for instance, track users across device, again, if they have consented for that. So yeah, definitely, if you can provide additional IDs to Meta, even if they are hashed, it's really interesting. So yeah, we also had another question of the complementarity between Pixel and CAPI. And it's really, as Mike was saying, it's really the best practice to have both today. And in particular, it's only the pixel that today is able to read the third-party cookies. So really try to keep it. Then, so I think I had a more prospective, one or two prospective questions. The question is just named tracking in 2023. So you have 4 hours to write down what you think about it. But in just 1 minute, I think the question is, what do you think data collection will look like next year, and what should I focus on? What I think we can say to be quite conservative is that for sure universal identifiers that can be used on every website and or applications, and by this I mean third-party cookies and device IDs, those they will be gone. So maybe not all of them in 2023, but 2024 for Android. So universal tracking is probably dead. It's almost sure, and it will be replaced, in our view, by 2 things. So consented data collections and consented marketing. And this is what Conversions API does. So users consent, you have rich data about them. You can share this data not with everyone, but with one player. In that case, it's Meta. And you can have precise Meta to the website measurement. Consented marketing. And for those users that won't consent, what you will be left with, in our view, will be cohorts. So rather cohorts provided by Chrome or cookieless data, consentless data, and this data will be quite general. But you will have to refine the use of this data with machine learning to make sure that you make the most of it. So really, cohort marketing and consented marketing. So then. Another question, can CAPI used by itself without pixel? It's feasible. For instance, some clients that have strong IT policies that prevent any client-side tracking, they do that. So you only have CAPI, no pixel. But again, if you have such type of policies, it's not a recommendation, because having both is better for measurement. So yeah, there was a question: should we wait until cookie is deprecated or test beforehand? I think we answered that, because today some cookies are already deprecated. So in our view, you should start now.
A lot of advertisers who already deploy CAPI create their curve of experience and see improving performance. So we are recommending to deploy CAPI as soon as you can, because it's impacting the number of conversion that you are reporting on, the number of users that you are matching, and be able to activate for your campaign or exclude depending on your strategy. So again, don't wait if you can to deploy CAPI.
Then an interesting question. So question about the hyper supermarket example, when you're not sending hashed data, but extending the first party cookie. Do you need to ask extra consent for this, or can you extend the cookie on the back end without the users having knowledge of this? So we don't do anything that the user can't know about. It's really not the philosophy. And actually, the cookie that we extend, the user can see it. It just has to open the console, and it's a cookie that is saved thanks to a server, but it is saved on the browser, and so the user can see it. And we don't ask for an extra consent, because it's the duration that we put is in line with the regulation for the European regulation in that case. So it's just that instead of having a cookie that lasts 1 day, it's 6 months or 13 months, depending on the cases. And we just have one consent, the consent on the cookie banner. And please don't hide anything. Don't hide anything. Okay. Yeah, so I think there are a few questions about explaining again how the deduplication and overlap and everything works in Events Manager. So what you have in Events Manager is the number of pixel events, number of CAPI events, and you have the deduplication rate of CAPI, knowing that if an event is tracked both by CAPI and pixel, it's a pixel that takes precedence. So with all this data, the deduplication rate, number of events CAPI, number of events pixel, you can find out the percentages of additional conversions tracked with CAPI. So everything is in Events Manager, and if something is not clear, you can definitely contact us. So I don't know what time it is. And do we have?
We still have 5 minutes.
Okay. Is there a maximum number? So, okay, so this one was answered.
In terms of number of events, we still have today 8 events that you can share by domain name on CAPI. Our product team is working today to increase the volume of events that we can track with the Pixel and Conversion API. We will certainly announce updates during H2. So keep posted on that. We will inform you as soon as we have news.
So then we have a question that is there any way to have offline conversions used for pixel optimization? So status-wise, conversions that are not attributed by Facebook but that are uploaded from CRM and then attributed as offline conversions, because right now it can only be used for audiences and analytics. So what I understand probably is that you have your dedicated offline event source with offline conversions, purchases, whatever, and then you have your pixel, and actually you want to use your offline data to optimize your campaigns, which makes sense. And it's true that CAPI enables to have all data in one place in Business Manager. So that's definitely something CAPI can do, but you have to watch out that even if you can have all data in one place in Events Manager, it's important that the offline conversions don't come too late after the ad exposure, because otherwise the bidding algorithm won't work so well.
And to complete what Charles said, we have a beta program named Post Conversion, allow advertiser to reconcile event done, for example, leads done on a website during 30 days with the sales, for example, in store. So it's not something open for all advertisers. It's still in beta for different type of businesses, but this is something that will maybe available for all advertisers in 2023. So again, it's part of our roadmap. So keep stay with us. We will communicate that as soon as we have any news on that. I think that we can also try to sum up all the questions that we receive and give you feedback, written feedback with 55 and Showroomprive on the different question pending. We try to tackle the maximum question during this webinar. We hope that it's now clearer for you why you need to deploy CAPI, what are the benefits to do it now, the value for advertiser and the value for agencies. So we will come back to you with the recording and maybe a precise answer to people who ask a question that we are not that we didn't cover during the webinar.
Yes, indeed, and maybe just to say one last word of conclusion. So thanks again, everyone, for listening. You understood the value of CAPI. You got concrete figures, and again, the value will increase further and further next year and the year after when cookies become scarcer. You understand that CAPI can be implemented quite easily, but there are key things to key watching points to have in mind in terms of organization in particular. So if you have any technical or approach question, don't hesitate to contact us. You will receive an email after this webinar, and you have to answer the feedback form in order to receive the presentation. And you can also ask us questions again on this form that you will receive. So thanks a lot, and thanks to Greg in particular.
Thank you. It was a good moment.
Thank you all. Have a great day to everybody. Bye.
Have a nice end of the day. Bye.